Welcome. In this explainer, we're doing a deep dive into the nature of marketing. This covers a really core topic from Chapter 17 of the Cambridge AS Level Business course. We're going to break down all the key concepts you'll need for your exams.
All right, so here's our roadmap for today. We'll kick things off with the fundamental role of marketing. Then we'll look at how economic forces, like demand and supply, really influence decisions. From there, we'll explore how businesses choose their markets, how they target specific customers, and then how they build those lasting relationships. Let's get right into it.
Okay, to really see marketing in action, let's start with a great real-world example, McDonald's in Malaysia. Their growth there has been pretty impressive, and it's all driven by really clear objectives like expanding their stores and, this is the crucial part, localizing their menu. Keep this example in the back of your mind, because we'll come back to it to help explain some of the core marketing ideas. So, let's start with the absolute basics. What is marketing, really? As we're about to see, it's a huge strategic function that goes way beyond just making a few ads.
This definition from the Chartered Institute of Marketing is one you should definitely know. It's built on three really key verbs: identifying what customers need right now, anticipating what they're going to want in the future, and then satisfying those needs in a way that makes money. See, it's not just about selling stuff. It's a complete management process that links the whole business directly to its customers.
Now, this is a super critical point, especially for exam questions. Marketing objectives don't just exist in a bubble. They have to directly support the big, overarching goals of the entire company. So, for example, if the corporate objective is become the market leader, then a supporting marketing objective might be increase our market share by 5% this year. And that one goal triggers a whole chain reaction across the business. Finance has to find the budget, HR has to hire more salespeople, and operations has to make sure they can actually produce enough to meet all that new demand. It all has to work together.
A key part of that definition we just saw was satisfying needs profitably. Well, a huge part of being profitable is setting the right price. And to understand pricing, we've got to get to grips with the fundamental economic forces of demand and supply.
Okay, so on the left, you've got the demand curve. It always slopes downwards because, well, it's pretty intuitive, right? When other things are equal, what economists call ceteris paribus, as the price of something falls, people want to buy more of it. Then on the right, the supply curve slopes upwards. This is from the business's perspective. Again, ceteris paribus, producers are willing to make and sell more of something at a higher price because, hey, it's more profitable for them.
And where these two curves cross, that magic point right in the middle, that's where we find the equilibrium price and quantity. You can think of it as the market's natural balancing point, where the amount sellers want to sell perfectly matches the amount buyers want to buy. Any other price, and you'd end up with either too much stuff left on the shelves, a surplus, or not enough to go around, a shortage.
Now let's actually apply this stuff. Activity 17.2 gives us a perfect real-world scenario with rising rice prices. This table breaks down exactly why. Look what's happening on the demand side. Things like rising incomes are shifting the whole demand curve to the right. But at the same time, on the supply side, things like losing farmland are shifting the supply curve to the left. So when you have demand going up and supply going down simultaneously, the effect on that equilibrium price is huge. It gets pushed way higher.
Okay, so understanding those market forces is really the foundation. Now let's look at how businesses react to all this with their overall strategy. The choices they make about which markets to get into and how they're going to approach them.
This slide shows two totally different ways of thinking about business. On the left, you've got a customer-oriented or market-oriented approach. This way starts with the customer. It uses research to figure out what people need, and then it develops a product to meet those needs. On the right, you have the product-oriented approach. This one starts with an innovative product, focusing on its quality and amazing features, and then it goes looking for a market. It's basically the difference between asking what do people want and proudly saying, we've made something awesome.
The classic watch company case from Activity 17.3 is the perfect cautionary tale about the dangers of being purely product-oriented. I mean, for over 100 years, their focus on that one single tough-as-nails product totally worked. But the problem was, they failed to notice the market was changing all around them. As you can see, consumer tastes evolved, but the company just didn't. The solution wasn't a small tweak, it was a fundamental shift in their whole philosophy from being product-oriented to customer-oriented. They had to start asking what customers wanted, instead of just making what they'd always made.
So to measure how they're doing and make smart decisions, marketers are constantly looking at two key numbers. First is market growth. This basically tells you if the whole industry pie is getting bigger or smaller. That gives you an idea of the market's potential.
Then you have market share, which measures the size of your company's slice of that pie compared to your rivals. And here's a really important takeaway. Your sales can be going up, but if the whole market is growing even faster, you're actually losing ground to your competitors. Your market share is falling.
Okay, let's walk through this calculation from Activity 17.5 step by step, because this is a really common type of exam question. Step 1. First, we need Tesco's sales back in 2020. That's 10% of the total market of $55 billion, which gives us $5.5 billion. Simple enough. Step 2. Now for their sales in 2021. We just add the $2 billion in growth, which brings their new sales figure to $7.5 billion. Step 3. We also need the new total market size. The market grew by $10 billion, so the new total is $65 billion. Step 4. Finally, to get the new market share, we use the formula. The firm's sales divided by the total market sales times 100. So that's $7.5 billion divided by $65 billion times 100, which gives us 11.54%. So in this case, both their sales and their market share went up. That's a really strong performance.
All right, now let's dig into how businesses decide who to sell to. Do they try to target absolutely everyone with just one product, or do they focus in on specific groups of customers? This slide compares two strategies that are pretty much polar opposites. On the left, you have mass marketing. This is where a business targets the entire market with one standard product. Just think of Coca-Cola. The whole game is about high sales volume, which usually leads to economies of scale and lower costs. Then on the right, you have niche marketing. This is all about focusing on a small, specific, and often ignored corner of a bigger market. Imagine a company that only makes super specialized gear for professional deep-sea divers. This smaller focus can let firms charge premium prices, and they'll probably face a lot less competition. But it's not always a simple choice between mass or niche. In fact, many of the most successful companies use something in the middle, called market segmentation. As the slide says, this is all about breaking down a huge mixed market into smaller, more manageable subgroups or segments based on things they have in common. The company can then create a specific product and a unique marketing plan for each of these different groups. And Tata Motors is a perfect example of segmentation in action. They don't have a one-size-fits-all car. No way. Instead, they identify these distinct market segments and then design products specifically for them. The Ace mini truck is for their commercial and agricultural segment. Their SUVs are targeted right at the family segment, and because they own Jaguar, they can also target the high-end luxury segment. Each of those products has a different price, different features, and is promoted in a totally different way to reach its specific audience.
So if it's so great, why doesn't every single business do this? Well, because segmentation comes with some pretty significant trade-offs. The advantages are pretty obvious. You can increase sales and find new gaps in the market. But if you look on the right, the disadvantages are almost all about cost. You have higher R&D costs to develop all those different products, and higher promotion costs for running all those separate marketing campaigns. And there's also the risk of being over-specialized if one of your key segments suddenly changes its mind. It's all a strategic balancing act.
So far, we've mostly been talking about marketing to individual people like you and me, which is called B2C. Now let's look at the other side of the coin, business to business, or B2B marketing.
The main takeaway here is that selling to a business is just a fundamentally different game than selling to a consumer. A B2B sale, like, say, selling engine components to a car maker, involves products that are way more complex and technical. The buyer is a professional who makes rational, logical decisions, not emotional impulse buys. The whole sales process takes longer, it often involves negotiation, and it relies on building long-term relationships through expert sales teams and industry events like trade fairs, not flashy TV ads.
And this brings us to our final section, which really ties a lot of these ideas together. You see, in modern marketing, the goal has really shifted from just making a single sale to building long-term, profitable relationships with customers. This focus on relationships is often managed through something called customer relationship marketing, or CRM. This is all about using data and technology to understand your customers as individuals and to personalize their experience with you. Now, as the slide shows, there are definitely costs involved, like IT systems and training. But the benefits are massive. It's a well-known fact in business that keeping an existing customer is like 5 to 10 times cheaper than trying to find a new one. Plus, loyal customers often become your best marketers through word of mouth.
And this brings us to a final, thought-provoking question for you to chew on, inspired by a business like Zara in the fast fashion world. In markets where products and trends are changing constantly, is that long-term relationship with the customer actually the company's most valuable asset?
Is that loyalty and trust the ultimate sustainable competitive advantage? Think about that as you review these concepts.